Just before we begin, I want to clarify two things. First, this tier list is talking about the 1v1 game mode. Second, all the weapons are pretty close in strength all around. That's why the lowest tier is B tier. Let's kick things off with blasters. Blasters are for me the worst weapon in the game right now. The reason is that they ask for twice as much effort as other weapons just for the same results. In order to use blasters effectively, you have to outspace your every move correctly, since one slip up means that you only have Dare or Endlight to cover yourself. But hitting Endlight doesn't reward you much since the follow-up opportunities are kinda thin, and there it gets predictable after a while. Not only that, the majority of Blaster's true combos and string potential comes out of D-Light, who is a pretty hard move to hit on its own. And if someone happens to be stacked with you, you might as well just disconnect since it is very hard to reset neutral versus weapon that can take advantage of it. The most glaring examples would be Katars and Sword versus Blasters. When you look at Canon on paper, it should be an S tier weapon. After all, it has insane mobility, a true combo string starter and kill confirm, and a good one at that. The potential for a 0 to death after one dodge read, depending on the map, the best ground pound in the game, and a very good punish game. So why am I putting it in B tier? Well, the reason is pretty simple. Canon's neutral is terrible. All of his approach options are either punishable or predictable, and its only somewhat safe option is Endlight, but after a while of using it, your opponent will just start adapting to it. This weapon has stayed average for a long time. Although it may be king in 2s, in 1s there is nothing particular with it that makes it better than all the options I'm going to mention above. The only outliers are D-Light, who is basically a jump with a hitbox, and Nair, who is a 360 low commitment hitbox. Other than that, the rest of the moves are pretty basic, but at least it has the merit of making Spear a very simple and beginner friendly weapon. And to finish it off with Spear, I just want to mention the possibility of doing 80 plus damage if you read with Sidelight. It also happens to tilt the fuck out of the opponent because he has to watch the whole cutscene while he can't do anything.
He disconnected.
Had to skip the spear cutscene.
Greatsword is another weapon that should be top tier when looked on paper. I mean, it has a busted Nair, a busted Dare, a great stage control, and good hitboxes for the most part. So once again, what is the problem? It's due to its abysmal frame data. Even Axe has a faster ground option, and it's a heavy weapon. Greatsword needs stage control for it to be effective. If you were to force it off the ground, it becomes terrible. And since it doesn't have a good way to transition from air to ground, unlike other weapons, you can easily camp it. Plus, if any weapon were to come a bit too close to Greatsword, it won't be able to deal with it because it's just not fast enough. It also has one of the worst matchup spread in the game. Although a great perk Greatsword has is the fact that no one plays it, meaning that no one knows how to really counter it. The downside of it is that you might come across a lot of AIDS playstyle. The neutral of Katars is one of the most straightforward in the game. If your opponent is on the ground, Sidelight. If he's in the air, D-Light. Too close to you? Endlight. You missed? Try again, and again, and again. Making Katars a simple weapon to play. It also has a busted Nair, which makes it scary when you're off stage against it because you never know when he's gonna throw a Nair and take your recovery with it. The punish game of Katars is also very scary since you can react to dodges most of the time. Although Katar have the ridiculous annoyance of dropping very often, which makes them inconsistent, and Lance is just a terrible matchup for them. But why are they down here though? Well, it's not that Katars are bad, it's that the other weapons above are just better. Lance is the only weapon to my knowledge to have a drastically different opinion depending on the region. In North America, this weapon has been seen as low tier for the longest of times, and this is only starting to change now after the Lance buffs. But in Europe, people usually agree that Lance is pretty strong. First, let's talk positives. Lance has access to Nair, who is an insane move in itself, allowing you to juggle your opponent with the massive threat coverage it has. It also has access to D-Light, which makes punishing it grounded tricky. Lance can recover from far away with the help of Sarah and recovery, but it's not wise to go off stage with it since the recovery can be broken pretty easily. And to finish it off, what makes everyone beg for a Lance rework: the disjointed hitboxes. This alone is what makes Lance hated and annoying to fight. This essentially gives the Lance a lot of priority over most attacks in the game, and shut down low range weapons pretty well. This creates an insane pressure because there's the fear of getting pseudo 50-50. You either get sidelighted or Nair. Now let's talk negatives. Lance killing options are the following: Ser, recovery, and ground pound. Ground pound being pretty situational, this leaves us with just Ser and recovery, who both requires the opponent to be airborne. So if you want to kill on Lance, you will need to anticipate the opponent movement or dodge, or have a good grounded sig like Roland down sig or Artemis side sig. The moves on Lance are also very predictable, so playing passive is very effective against it, and it's probably the most effective way to beat Lance even. And to finish off, Axe is brutal. Orb, or like what a lot of people call it, lesser good sword. It doesn't make it less effective though. A lot of the moves on Orb ask for very low commitment. The only attacks that ask for a bit of commitment are Sidelight and Endlight, who aren't even that punishable. There is a disjoint, steerable, and lagless, basically broken. Recovery has a lot of active frames, so it's easy to catch people. In fact, there isn't any downside with Orbs really. It does everything pretty well. But if I place it here, it's not because it's bad again, it's just because the other weapons are much better. And to finish off A tier, we have Gauntlets, who used to be S tier for the longest of times. Gauntlets have an average neutral, but makes it up for it with its insane offstage. Being the best at it, it is capable of reversing matches in an instant if you aren't paying attention for 1 second offstage. The onstage punish game is nothing to be scoffed at either. Getting a dodge read with Gauntlets is very profitable, because it either leads into massive damage or to an offstage situation where Gauntlets are the best at. The only downside of Gauntlets is the poor range really. First weapon in S tier, Scythe. Scythe has a lot of things going for it. The attacks ask for low commitment. It has Endlight, who is a literal force field. Its offstage is insane and can rival the likes of Gauntlets. The active inputs in it creates a lot of opportunities. The only downside really is the lack of a good killing move. Sarah is pretty weak. For the longest of times, I always considered Hammer to be a top 3 weapon, but after putting in some more thoughts and playing against more skilled Hammer players, I came to realize that I overrated it a bit. But it's still a beast of a weapon, mainly due to its insane killing capabilities, Stomp Sarah being a broken kill confirm. Not only that, its offstage is also top 3 best offstage in the game, just being beaten by Scythe and Gauntlets. This is due to the nature of recovery, who is an overpowered game tool. It comes out fast, has good range, and can be true comboed with D-Light. It also has decent force. Hammer also has access to Stomp, who is an insane utility move, since it leads into so many true combos that all provide a specific purpose. Kill confirm, Edge Guard, Juggle tool, Wake up tool, you name it. And like it wasn't enough, you also have Nair, who has an insane threat coverage. It can even hit grounded. And you still have access to Endlight, who is a frame 6 move. So why am I saying that it's overrated a bit if there is so much things going for it? Well, it's simple. Neutral and matchups. The neutral of Hammer is pretty mediocre, only having Sidelight as its only somewhat range option, and all the areas are pretty slow. And when it comes to matchup, Hammer has a pretty bad matchup spread. Ironically, despite being slower than Hammer, Axe's neutral is god tier. The hitboxes are large, so they provide for an insane threat coverage. Landing a move sets you up for another one pretty effectively too. The air drift is pretty good, and there is decent amount of true combos to complement that. The fact that there has been this good for this long without any kinds of nerf is perplexing to me. And even though it has a somewhat situational kill confirm, it has plenty of setup that aids towards killing. There into Sair, Scythe into ground pound. And did I even mention Axe Delight, who is a really good anti-air? The only real weakness is Sword and Katars, which depends on matchups. Speaking about weapons that excels in neutral, Sword is the most neutral heavy oriented weapon, and it's not even close. But that's not the only thing going for it. The majority of Sword attacks are safe to throw out, it has a kill confirm, even though it kills pretty late, but it's pretty practical. Nair is similar to Greatsword Nair, Scythe is also a literal force field. If the opponent is too close to you, chances are they will get hit by it. And can I even mention Sword and Light? It comes out fast, but it also has a lot of active frames, basically creating a wall in front of the enemy player. All of this provides Sword with the most ridiculous stage control. And now for the final weapon. If you paid attention, you probably already figured out which weapon I'm going to talk about. Of course, I'm going to talk about Bow. Bow is honestly a weapon I don't see much people talk about when discussing weapons that should get nerfed. And I honestly don't understand why. Bow has pretty much everything you need apart from massive string potential. It has lagless attacks, a spammable side light, low range D-light that throw combos into anything, the most effective anti-air with N-Light, strongest ground pound in the game, safe Nair that helps you edge guard safely, good drift on Sair, Nair that is safe and also hit stacked, and a recovery that has an insane threat coverage. All of this provides Bow the ability to win on stage and off stage encounters more than any other weapons in the game, with the benefit also having no bad matchups. Don't believe me? Ask anyone which weapon counters Bow and see if they can come up with a good argument for why X weapon counters Bow. Maybe you can argue that Lance can counter it, but even that's pretty much a 50-50. And here you have it, my tier list for patch 6.4. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Disagree? Or feel like I should kill myself? Tell me in the comment your thoughts on it, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying my content. At the next time, peace.